The floor. Anyone have any questions? Julie?
Yeah, at Nairobi, the question of vertical integration. So they decided to like throw out the separation between registries and registrants, right? And I understood, you know, in Singapore that they kind of like backtracked on that, and it seemed like the rules aren't finalized. Maybe Kurt could address this. I wonder how it affects, you know, when you're doing the brand TLDs with the single registrant kind of TLDs, how this separation, do you think it's going to work? Do you think the rules are going to change, or what's going to happen? And even Wendy, do you think, what are the concerns in terms of the public? Should we be happy with the situations as it is now?
Well, that, you're bringing up what is also another major change in the industry. That is, you know, in the past, domain name registries were not permitted to be registrars, at least in the
Switch
GTLD.
your mic on, maybe.
Sorry, at least in the GTLD space. So that's changed now. Registries will be permitted to be registrars and vice versa, and that will begin with new GTLDs. So that brings to bear other choices and other business models that registries can bring to market. But in the case of a brand, right, every domain name, of course, has to be registered through a registrar of some kind. So if the registry is a registrar, of course, if a brand chose to become a registrar, they could register their own names. But I think what most brands will do is work with the registrars they currently have relationships with. For the most part, we're talking about global brands, major brands who will be applying for their own brand TLDs. Many of them have relationships with registrars that manage their domain portfolio and protect their brands online. Most of them will use those same registrars to submit those registrations to the registry.
So you don't think there'll be a change in the rules?
No, I think the rules are set in the guidebook. It's pretty well defined now after, a year and a half of working on the issue of vertical integration through a task force that I was on with literally tens of thousands of emails. But essentially, there's a code of conduct that ICANN adopted as part of the guidebook that will govern the relationship between registrars and registries, and when they're the same entity, and curb any kind of abuse or potential abuse that may occur because of that. From a brand perspective, however, there's an exception in a couple of parts of the guidebook for what we call single registrant, single user name. So if you're not out selling the name to the public, but you're just using it for your own purposes, there are some exceptions that ICANN adopted as part of the most recent guidebook.
Anyone have any other questions? Yes?
I think we've got some interesting perspective between Herrick and Esther as far as some of the tension that maybe we're going to experience as this kind of ebbs and flows into January and beyond. On the one hand, it seems like we've got technology enablement. On the other hand, it seems like we have kind of marketing ploy. Would any of the panelists, either this panel or other panelists that are still here, comment on, it seems like the community wants better service, not more, and we're kind of fighting through that tension of the free market right now.
You might have to clarify the first point, but if...
Can you repeat the question, Paul? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it.
Let me just make the noise come back first. Yeah, basically, he's asking whether there's a middle ground between the new names and cost, I believe.
I would just say
defining what that middle ground is.
Yeah, I would say to answer your question and to Esther's point that the creation of new top-level domains has been in ICANN's charter since 1998. It's been in its documents, in its founding documents, in its contract with the U.S. Department of Commerce. And personally, I've spent, like I said, 7 years working on the policy development to get this through the ICANN process and to put it in a position that it had wide community support. So, and if you look at the community policy-making development process and the vehicle for ICANN, it's called the GNSO, and there's a acronym for everything in ICANN. But the GNSO approved it overwhelmingly, the policy of creating new TLDs, and then the ICANN board approved the policy in June 2008. So now we're now looking 3 years later on 3 years of really hard work on implementing the policy. And so, you know, I'm not sure how effective it is to re-debate the issue of whether we need TLDs or not, but as far as the implementation goes, a lot of that influence was baked into what we now see in the guidebook.
Anyone else?
Also, Tony, you can answer that.
You can try again.
Thank you. Just adding to John's point, I agree that we've had a lot of debate and within the community discussion around the policy for this. One of the major topics of the last 2 or 3 years has been the notion of economic demand, and is there a demand for new TLDs? My only 2 points to that are that innovation itself is often hard to measure in terms of demand. And the second point is that if there was no demand, none of us would be interested in listening to this, and you wouldn't be hearing today from potential applicants. So there is a demand in the market for new TLDs. Can you measure it in terms of what they need for registration and how many new registrations you'll get? Of course not. But there must be some sort of type of demand to have people like ourselves interested across this program, looking to provide opportunities for future generations. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question? All right, great. Well, I think this was a great iBreakfast / almost lunch. But we had a lot of speakers and content. I hope people were enlightened in some way. I want to thank Kurt Pritz for coming down to speak as our keynote, as well as all our speakers today, and our sponsors, VeriSign, New Start, Affiliates, Green, Definition 6, and Watch It 2. And Alan, you have any closing remarks?
I'd just like to thank everyone.
Alan, I'd like to thank everyone.
So I do want to share once again our thanks and gratitude to all of those who made this happen, including Paul. A round of applause for Paul. To our speakers, and of course to Herrick Feinstein. And I do want to let you know that the iBreakfast is a resource that I'd like for you all to stay in touch with, because we do great events. Whatever the hottest thing in the industry is, you'd be pretty sure to find us there first.
Absolutely. And we are definitely looking to make Master of Your Domain more of an establishment, and look forward to archiving the material today. There have been a lot of requests for the presentation, so I'm going to speak with the speakers, and we'll put the presentations up that are allowed. And thank you, everyone.
My last question is, if we made a T-shirt called Master of My Domain, would you all want one?
I think the answer is no.
Okay. So we'll leave that business.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.